Hello and welcome. You are watching News 9 Live. I'm Krishna Kumar and I'm being joined by my colleague Varghese Abraham in the studios, and we are at this hour discussing the Reserve Bank of India. The Governor Shaktikanta just getting ready to address the media. The Reserve Bank of India has announced its decision to keep the repo rate, the benchmark interest rate, unchanged at 6.5%. RBI's governor said that the Monetary Policy Committee had decided to keep the repo rate unchanged at 6.5% with readiness to act should the situation warrant so. Bear in mind, there have been 6 rate hikes by the Reserve Bank of India since the month of May last year. That means for the last year, we've seen 6 rate hikes, but this time around, in this particular review of India's monetary policy, the Reserve Bank of India has decided to keep the repo rate unchanged at 6.5%. Shaktikanta Das, the Reserve Bank of India's governor, is set to address the media. Let's cut across live and listen in.
Hello and welcome to the first bi-monthly monetary policy, post-monetary policy press conference of the fiscal year 2023-24. We are glad to have with us a governor, honorable governor, respected deputy governors. Before we go ahead with the press conference, sir, with your permission.
Okay. Good afternoon. Good to have all of you here, as in the previous occasions also. I would like to make 4 points. First, if I have to characterize today's monetary policy in just one line, I would say as follows. It's a pause, not a pivot. Number 2, there has been an effective rate increase of 290 basis points over the last 1 year, including the SDF 40 basis points rate increase. And this 290 basis points increase, in fact, has translated to a monetary policy transmission by way of increase in the overnight call rates. I have given the numbers in my statement. The overnight call rates have gone up from the daily average in March last year to the daily average in March this year by 320 basis points. I have given the numbers. They were 3.32 last year in March. This year in March, the daily average was 6.52. So therefore, the effective increase has been in the order of 320 basis points. It is therefore now necessary to assess the cumulative impact of our actions taken so far. That's the second point I wanted to make. The third point is that the MPC remains watchful and will not hesitate to take further action in its future meetings as may be necessary. So the job is not yet finished. 4, given that there is overall macroeconomic and financial stability, our priority continues to be price stability. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for those opening remarks. I'll begin the press conference by inviting Mr. Ankur Mishra from ET Now to ask his question.
Thank you, Governor. Sir, with the emphasis which you have given on the pause, if I want to understand and take away from that in cricketing parlance, is it a pause like you're watching a good over, you want to continue watching it and then play the shot later? Or this does not leave out the possibility that you will continue to make strokes if at all it is needed later?
To use a cricketing parlance, it will depend on each ball. On a more serious note, we are watchful of how it is playing out. Monetary policy, as you know, is always forward-looking. We are watchful of the impact of the action taken so far. There are so many other external developments also taking place. both with regard to inflation, with regard to growth, and so many other things. So we will be watchful of the overall situation, and monetary policy being forward-looking, we will take further action whenever we think appropriate.
So another question I wanted to ask, just one on SVB financial crisis. You have already given a statement earlier that banks need to be watchful. But in Indian condition, as a regulator, do you feel that such crisis cannot happen, at least in India?
I think I'll pass it on.
Thank you, Governor. I think Governor said in his statement that as of now, the Indian banking system remains sound and healthy, with strong capital and liquidity position, improving asset quality, better provisioning coverage, along with the improved profitability. Governor said in his statement also it's an evolving position, and we are living in an uncertain period. But one thing I would like to add, that the prudential regulation are across the commercial banks are uniformly applied, whether it is SLR, CRR, LCR, NSFR, investment fluctuation reserve, and the stress testing. So there is no differentiation just because of the sheer size of the asset of the bank.
Thank you.
Thank you, sirs. I'll move on to Mr. Laltendu Mishra from The Hindu.
Thank you, Governor, for taking my question. Sir, the RBI is using data to decide whether to increase rates or take a pause. You have taken a pause, it's a great thing. And as we all know, increasing interest rate continuously has a risk for financial stability, and that is playing out in the US. So my question is to you, sir, is that at what point in terms of data will the RBI concede that using interest rate alone to tackle inflation has its own limits? Thank you, sir.
I would request Dr. Patra to take that.
First of all, in the fight against inflation, interest rates alone have not been used. They have been used in conjunction with supply-side measures because alongside demand pressures, there have been multiple shocks, overlapping shocks on the supply side. So first of all, that's the fact. Then we have an assignment where regulatory macroprudential policies are assigned to financial stability. So they are separate tools which ensure that banks are sufficiently buffered against the kind of shocks that you saw.
Thank you, sir. I'll move on to Ms. Lata Venkatesh from CNBC TV 18.
Thank you, Yogesh. Governor, I have just a set of questions on inflation. Now, if inflation proceeds as per the Reserve Bank's statement, then will you still have to hike, or is it a pause? And going on to, if that is the assumption, 5.2 is the Q4 inflation, so your real positive rate becomes 130 basis. Is that the comfort zone? If it is, then for FY 24-25, the MPR says your range is between 4.7 and 4.4. So technically, in a few months, you should be cutting, because otherwise you will be 200 basis points real rates. Is that the way we should understand it? But first, if it evolves as per trajectory, is there no hike needed?
The average inflation we have given for the current year is 5.2%, and our target is 4%. Given the confluence of factors which prevail today, I have said it in my statement also, given the confluence of factors which prevail as of today, we have taken this policy decision in today's meeting. Our target is 4%. And if you see the monetary policy's withdrawal of accommodation, it says to progressively align with the target. So therefore, we have to always keep in mind that 4% is the target, and we will work towards that. Beyond that, it would not be possible for me, with so many uncertainties remaining, it's not possible for me to make certain assumptions and say that if these assumptions work out, I will act accordingly, because there may be so many other developments also happening. And in an extremely uncertain environment like the one we have today, I mean, just last week, you had the OPEC Plus cut, and I have referred to it, with so many other developments taking all over. And given the, the heightened uncertainty, I would not like to commit myself to, if this happens, I will do this. I would rather wait, and as in a game of chess, we keep on thinking about our forward moves, and we will act when the time arises. Would you like to supplement anything?
Just a word on...
No, I think...
Yeah, sure, please.
Yeah, just to supplement, we had this conversation in the last meeting.
Mike.
Where you raised a similar question. I would like to add to Governor's remarks by saying that relative to last meeting, we are much better off. If you recall, at that time we were 0.9 percentage points above the 4 quarters ahead rate. Today we are 1.3 percentage points. So economic theory says that if you are a disinflationary central bank, you should react more than proportionally to the change in inflation. And we have achieved that in this meeting.
Okay, so
Sir,
just a word on growth.
Maybe we can come back later. I'll just
We'll
move
come
on to others. I'll invite Mr. Ben Jose from PTI to ask his question.
Just switch off the mic, please.
Good morning, Governor. Ben here. While everybody has have a lower forecast for growth, you have increased the growth forecast by 10 basis points. What is the rationale for that? RBI, and there have been calls by certain analysts that RBI have to decouple from the US Fed when it comes to monetary policy. Is this the beginning of that decoupling?
Beginning of?
Decoupling from the Fed policy rate.
No, with regard to coupling with the US Fed, it has never been so. For some reason, sections of the market has been seeing it that way. And repeatedly, I have been stressing that our monetary policy is determined primarily by domestic factors. So therefore, we were never really coupled with the US Fed action. And it's for you to really interpret. With regard to the growth numbers, I think let Dr. Patra reply to that.
So you should see the forecast as compared with the estimated actual for 22-23. So we are actually downgrading our growth outlook for 23-24 by 50 basis points, from 7% to 6.5. What you are, I think, alluding to...
6.4.
Yeah,
6.4 to 6.5. One important change is that there is a change in the oil price assumption from 90 to 85.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, sirs. I'll move on to Ms. Chloe Cornish from Financial Times.
Thanks, Yogesh. Some bankers are considering the 6.5% will be the terminal rate, despite what you said about the willingness to take further action. I'm just wondering what you would say to them. I mean, is it the terminal rate, or should they really understand that you're serious about taking further action as needed?
I think everyone should take seriously what I have said. And I just now said that it's a pause, not a pivot. And we have said that the MPC stands ready to act should the situation so warrant in the future meetings. So I think banks or anybody else, they can draw their own inferences, but I think it will be better. It will be desirable that they sort of take our words seriously, and I think they do take our words seriously, and accordingly they price in their future actions.
Thank you, sir. I'll move on to Mr.
Right, that was the Reserve Bank of India's Governor Shaktikanta Das Varghese making it very clear and asking everybody to take him seriously, especially the banks to take him seriously. This is a pause, not a pivot. As in, don't look forward to any rate cuts going forward from the Reserve Bank of India. They're not pivoting their stance. What they're doing is they're pausing on the rate hikes that they have been doing over the last year. Since May, 6 hikes of the repo rate, the benchmark rate at which the RBI lends to banks and vice versa. That rate has been hiked for 6 times in the last 1 year since May. And now, finally, there is a pause in that hike, and that means your home loan rates, your car loan rates, all those rates remain exactly where they were. No changes. That's the big headline coming from the Reserve Bank of India. And with that, we're wrapping up our coverage on Reserve Bank of India, keeping the interest rate unchanged. We are taking a short breather. We'll be back with news and analysis on the other side. Keep it with News 9.